What is up, guys? It is the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to bring you more lore on the Warhammer 40k universe. Well, sorta, once again. Today I am talking about a topic that we get asked pretty much every day. On our For the Greater Walls, it's always in our questions. In our Facebook page, we always get questions, hey, do you think this guy can beat this guy? Or what universe can take on the Warhammer 40k universe? So what this video is I will be talking about 40k versus everybody else. So I'm going to be going through a few popular universes or IPs or games, whatever you guys want to call it. And I'm going to be kind of talking about how I think they stack up against Warhammer 40k. In most cases, I think 40k is going to come out on top because the lore and everything that has to do with 40k is so over the top, so OP, it's pretty crazy. So let's begin with our first one, and that is Star Wars. I could have like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 videos on this topic alone. We can go in great detail. It is highly popular. Every time we bring up Star Wars and 40k, we get tons of comments. So I'm basically going to drop it down to just 3 categories. The first one being the Jedi and the Sith. These guys are easily capable of mowing down countless Space Marines. So basically, we're going to be focusing mostly on Space Marines in the 40k universe, but I will talk about other races. But to talk about it simply, Space Marines versus Jedi and Sith, I'm going to have to give it to the Jedi and the Sith. They've got the whole Force, and you got the lightning and lightsabers, and I pretty much think the Space Marines are outmatched. Now, if you're talking about a Chapter Master or a Primarch, then I think they can take on the Jedi. After this, you've got basically the whole universe aspect of Star Wars, that being their laser weapons. You've got the Death Star, the AT-AT, you've got their starships, and then you bring it down to the actual creatures, which are, you got the alien species like the Wookiees and whatnot. You've got the troopers, the clone troopers, you've got rebels, you've got droids. How well do these guys stand up against everything else in 40k, such as the Tyranids, the Imperial Guard? It's going to be a tough one, honestly. But I'm going to say, due to the Death Star, if they have it, they could just blow up planets. But at the same time, the Imperium of Man has those, oh man, I forgot what they're called. But they're basically torpedoes that can basically enact exterminatus on planets. So they're pretty evenly matched. Now that I think about it, it's gonna be 40k, because the Death Star is big, it's clunky, and you could just have a torpedo that can blow up a whole world. So because of that, I'm gonna give it to 40k. Once again, guys, in the comments down below, let me know what you guys think. Does Star Wars have it, or does 40k take it? Moving on, we've got StarCraft. Now, I think I'm correct on this, but I believe StarCraft used to be Warhammer 40k before the companies got into a little bit of a disagreement and they kind of parted ways. So Blizzard made StarCraft. So if you look at StarCraft, there are a lot of parallels. You've got the Zerg, which are essentially the Tyranids. You've got the Marines, which are Space Marines. You've got the Protoss, etc. There's a lot of parallels in here, so because of that, I'm going to have to give it to 40k. 40k has better lore, in my opinion. Any way you look at it, I feel like StarCraft gets overlooked and outmatched. So because of that, I'm going to have to go directly to 40k winning. So if you're keeping track, that's 2 for 40k and 0 for everybody else. Let's move on to the next. Now this one is an IP that I get asked a lot on our Facebook page. It is Destiny. Destiny I've never played, but it looks awesome. I always see like the promotional trailers and whatnot. A buddy of mine plays it, pretty much every day, so it's a really good game from what I hear. I'm not too 100% keen on this, but by what I think I know is that they do have, they got like hammers, they got revolvers, they got good weapons. On top of that, I believe they're also like psychically attuned, or maybe that's just a certain class that you can play that has like the lightning. and stuff like that. So I'm not 100% sure if like these guys are basically beefed up humans. Are they, other races and whatnot? So because of that, I'm gonna have to put it, as undecided, just because I don't know enough about Destiny. They look powerful, and a lot of their armor looks similar to like Eldar armor or like Space Marine armor. So I'm not too sure on this one, but I'm just gonna give it to 40k. Again, guys, you guys know more about Destiny than I do, so let me know what your guys' thoughts are between Destiny and 40k. So let's move on to everybody's favorite, Halo. Now, just like Star Wars, Halo is another popular franchise that often gets pitted up against 40k. You've got Master Chief, which in my opinion, he's probably at chapter master level. He's a boss, as we've seen if you played Halo 1, 2, and 3. He cannot be taken down. He's basically taken on all the Covenant by himself, kinda, and he's come out on top more often than not. Next, we've got the Spartans, the USMC, the Flood, the Covenant, etc. These guys are pretty much the bread of this Halo sandwich, so to speak. They're kind of like the filler there, but at the same time, they're pretty important in their own right. In my opinion, the Flood is very much like the Tyranids. They're out to consume and conquer. They're kind of parasitic in a way. But I think the Flood can actually take on the Tyranids. If the two battled, I could easily see the Flood overpowering the Tyranids and actually taking control of the hive mind. So that would be a huge threat to the 40k universe. Also, if worse comes to worse, I think Halo will activate their rings, the Halo rings, as like a last resort and just wipe out all life on 40k. So because of that, I'm giving it to Halo. Next up is one that I really enjoy, and that is Overwatch. I love the gameplay, I love the characters, the setting, everything about it is awesome. But the more I think about it, I feel like most of the characters in Overwatch aren't very well suited to take on Warhammer 40k. That being said, the major reason is that they're not very well protected. Look at the most recent character that came out, Doomfist. He's got practically no armor on. He's got, obviously, that gauntlet arm, and that's pretty much it. If you look at all the other characters, you've got Soldier 71, I believe. He's got basically no armor. So the only one that I think can take it, or I'll say two. The two people that I think can take it are Diva, because she's got the mech, and Reinhardt. But we're going to be focusing on Reinhardt. Now, Reinhardt is best suited to take on Space Marines or any other threat, mainly because of three things. He's got his hammer. Now, although this is a slow weapon, as you know, it's unwieldy in Space Marines, he does, however, have a freaking rocket thrust to it, so he can swing it with high velocity, pretty much one-shotting any guy. Also, he's got that armor and that shield, so he's pretty much really well protected from any frontal assault, and he's got the charge. So if there's a group of enemies, he can just throw up that shield, and when he wants to, he can just charge right through them and then go swinging in. Now, the only downside is that there's only one Reinhardt, and also he's pretty old. So because of that, easily, I'm giving it to 40k. Now this next one I think has a lot of weeaboos cheering for them, and that is Gundam. Now Gundams are basically these robots with freaking awesomeness, epicness, weeabooness to them. They're way taller than a human, so they're going to be towering over basically everything in the 40k universe besides Titans. So Gundams, they're huge, they're powerful. But when it comes to Titans, can they go through their force field? Also, what about Knights? The Imperial Knights, they're basically smaller versions of Titans, so they're more agile. They could basically maneuver a little bit better, but not to that of the Gundams. Gundams are highly maneuverable. Oftentimes, they've got special gimmicks to them. They've got freaking beam weapons. So I'm going to have to give it to the Gundams, guys. Maybe that's just my inner Tau player cheering on. But I don't see I don't see Space Marines or anything else really matching up to Gundams, especially if they're united. Because usually when you watch a Gundam show, they're going up against like the Confederation or Federation, whatever it's called. So they're split. So it's Gundam on Gundam action. But if you unite all of them and you bring in all the old school Gundams with the new school Gundams, I feel like the Gundam universe has it in the bag just by a little bit. Since we're on that anime section, let's dive on over to Dragon Ball. So Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, and Dragon Ball GT. When you think about it, they're basically like a one-man army. Even in Dragon Ball, Goku, as a little kid, was able to beat the Red Ribbon Army. So that says a lot. Goku doesn't have any armor on, he's basically kind of stupid, and he's still able to take on an army. Now as you progress through Dragon Ball Z, GT, and Super, you can see how much powerful he is, being able to take on gods, blow up planets and whatnot. So because of this, Dragon Ball I think has the upper hand. Now if you look at Frieza, he has his own army and he was able to conquer a large portion of the galaxy. So that can say a lot. And lastly, we have Zeno. If you watch Dragon Ball Super, you know how OP beyond OP this guy is. With just a freaking snap of his fingers, he can wipe out universes. That being said, Warhammer 40k, if they ever become a threat, Zeno can just snap him away. And lastly, we come down to comics. I was originally going to split it up from DC and Marvel, but I'm just going to lump them together. So first of all, you've got DC and their Justice League, and you've got Marvel and their Avengers. These guys saved the world countless times, and they've saved the universe countless times. And this is mainly because of plot armor. Every time a superhero dies, they usually get resurrected in some way. So because of that, so let's say they're fighting up against Gilliman, and Gilliman chops off their head and they're dead. Eventually they're going to be coming back one way or another. So that being said, let's talk about more one-on-one battles instead of universe versus universe. So you've got Captain America and his leadership, you've got the Hulk's strength, Iron Man and his suit, his smarts, and lastly you got Thor, which is essentially a god. These guys on their own, they're a powerhouse. But can you see them taking on a Primarch or a Chapter Master, or maybe even a Demon Prince, something like that? One-on-one, I can definitely see it happening. But once you put the whole universe into perspective, I think 40k has it. Now, the two saving graces to the comic book section is Batman and Superman. Superman is basically invincible. He can just go in there and just start wrecking shit up. While Batman, he's going to work behind the scenes. Somehow he can get into the Emperor's throne room and get to the Emperor specifically, and maybe even kill the Emperor or somehow bring him over to the comic book side, and they'll win that way. If you give Batman enough time, he can do anything. So that being said, I gotta give it to the comic book side. And that brings us to the end of this video. If you do all the tallies, actually 40k loses. I'm surprised. I was actually thinking the opposite. 40k seemed very OP, but if you kind of put things into perspective, look at things, just stand back and be a watcher essentially from Marvel, you can see how crazy these other universes are. I mean, look at Goku. He can make a spirit bomb and blow a planet up. Easy as that. His only weakness is now he can't breathe. But then you look at the Omni King and he could just, snap universes out of existence. That's crazy. DC, you've got Superman, OP. Gundams, I mean, that's more possible. I can see Gundams and 40k going at it pretty well. Overwatch, not a contest. 40k got it. Halo, that's where it gets more deep, more exciting. Same with Star Wars. However, StarCraft and Destiny, they get kind of swept under the rug against 40k. So that was my thoughts and my opinions. I mean, this was only like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys, 8 universes, 8 IPs, 8 franchises, whatever you want to call it. There's countless more. We can talk about One Punch Man. We can talk about Castlevania or Devil May Cry. There's a whole bunch of other universes out there. Resident Evil. It's like we can go on for days talking about this. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think I'm wrong in all my opinions? Do you think StarCraft can actually beat 40K? Or maybe Destiny can, give them a run for their money? Or maybe you think, the Avengers and, Superman will die to the overwhelming power of the Chaos Gods. Let me know in the comments below, and we will, battle back and forth to see who is the ultimate universe of all universes. This has been The Sound Alchemist, and I look forward to reading your comments. I'll catch you guys tomorrow.